Hello, so today I thought we'd do some star decorations, a little bit similar to this. They're quite easy. They have one of these paper mache stars as a base, some string, some beach finds. I have shells, there's a box full here of all different things I found on the beach. The sea glass, there's all sorts of things. This is just a small box. There is an awful lot more in my collection upstairs. I've chosen these because I quite like these, so I put those separately. Little bit of, I've got a bag of cheesecloth, just some little bags, little bits of cheesecloth. Some MDF stars, which these are from Samantha K, which are really cute. They come in all different sizes, from really big ones, well not big, but the largest size in the pack, down to these tiny little ones. I love the fact that when they're laser cut, it leaves a dark edge, as you can see, and that's quite a nice organic look to them. Don't think I'll be using the big one because it might be a bit too big on my star, but I'll have it just in case. So I'll just move a few of these things out of the way. I need one star to set off with. I'll just move the big box of beach finds and everything out of the way. There. I'll keep my cheesecloth. I've got heavy gel medium by Décor, which I'm using. Some white gesso. This is Pebeo white gesso, but you can use any make. I just happen to have that on hand. Keep my stars, my beach finds, my cheesecloth, my star. I've got this brush, which is one of my glue brushes. They're just cheap and they're quite coarse bristles, and that works well for applying the gesso. So I will just pull those out. This is a laminated sheet that I use quite often as a palette. I'll set that to one side and then you can see. I put a little tiny bit of gesso, that's way too much, onto my palette, and what you do is you pick up a little bit of gesso onto your brush and then almost work it off so it's almost gone. Hang on to the hanger of your star, and then I usually start on what I think is going to be the back, just to try first. And you're just basically going to, it's dry brushing basically. You're adding a little bit of gesso to your star, and I tend to go in just one direction across, or you could go up and down, because I like the fact that it gets linear lines in the gesso. And can you see, you're not painting the star, you're just adding a little bit of gesso just to give it a bit of texture. And it looks a little bit like sort of weathered bleached wood that you would find on a beach hut or something like that. It also picks up the edges of the star and highlights them, which is rather nice. So it dries very, very quickly because you put in such a small, such a small amount of gesso on that it does dry very, very quickly. So that's the back done. I also do all the edges. If your brush gets short of gesso, just gather up a little bit more on to your brush, but just be aware that you don't want a massive amount of gesso on your brush, otherwise you will just end up painting your star, which would be fine. You could paint your star white and then dry brush with a blue or a beige, something like that, and that would look quite nice. But I prefer the more natural look. Now you see here I've got a little bit that's got a bit too much on, but I'm not bothered because it's just one area. If it was all like that, I would find it a bit much, but... And as I say, it does dry very, very quickly. So that's the edges done, the back, or the front, depending on which you wanted to do first. And you can see I'm getting the gesso on my brush, and as I've said before, dabbing quite a lot of it off. It is a gradual process, this, and that's how you get a more pleasing result. Need a bit more gesso. And if you've got any little imperfections in your stars from when they were made, it will pick those up. Let's go around the edges to highlight the edges a bit more. Make sure I've got all the edges highlighted. That's it, and I think we're done. So as you can see, it isn't completely coated, it just gives a weathered effect. Let's go over that a little bit more. Right, so put my brush in the water. Now I'm going to try out my placement before I glue anything down. I tend to have a bit of a thing, I like things to the right or left hand side. So I'm just sort of laying a little bit of my cheesecloth, which is just being frayed out. I think I'm going to have my shell here. I may have some little bits of sea glass just underneath it, just to give it a bit more dimension. As you put in the sea glass on, just be aware that it will raise your shell up, so you want it to be fairly even. This is a bit of shell which is brown on one side, white on the other. Don't know if I like that. I like these little stars, I think they look really cute. You can tuck them so that they're sort of underneath other things. Now I like that as it is, but it does need something. Yeah, so those 3 stars would be nice. So we've got this twine. Just pop my shell and my star out of the way at the moment. I'll just move my palette as well out of the way. So this is quite coarse twine, and it is very, very springy, and it's got quite a lot of texture to it. And because it's been wound round the roll, it sort of retains its circular habit. So I'm going to go with that. And don't fight against the way it wants to go. It wants to always go in a circular pattern. I'll just put that over there to stop it from springing about. So you can see it's going into circles. And if I pull one side, you see I can get two little bits that are circles. I'm going to cut that off there. And out of the way for the moment. And I have already got one of these tied so I can show you again. Hang on to it where it goes round and passes, the two ends pass. Now this is a little bit tricky, but you're going to then tie a knot with your two ends. But you sort of need to hang on to it as well at the same time. It is the most tricky bit of it all. And tie a knot. So you see we've got our two circular bits and we've got some loose ends. I just tie it in one knot because you are going to add gel medium to here, so it won't matter the fact that it's not a double knot to keep it secure, because the gel medium will make it secure. I quite like these ends teased out a little bit as well, so they look more textural. So that end and that end, if you just sort of unwind them a bit and fluff them out a bit, it gives it more texture. Looks like sort of old rope. So we'll bring our star back in, and I am happy with that. But you'll see if I add this on, it makes it a lot more interesting. It gives it a sense of movement and it just completes the whole design. So I'm just going to be placing these where I think I'll have them. And you see that just finishes it off because it gives it a sense of movement and a bit more texture. So I'm going to use my gel medium, heavy gel medium, with a spatula to glue everything on. This will be the last bit. And if I take them off and put them sort of just round my star, more or less where they're going to be, I'll remember where I had them placed. So I'm going to put a reasonable amount of gel medium on the back of these because they need quite a lot to stick it down. So that's from my cheesecloth. Try not to get it on your fingers, the gel medium, because it really doesn't want to come off your hands. And I try and stick the sea glass so that the flat bits are the bits that stick to the star. And you have got a little bit of wiggle room with this because the gel medium, it isn't an instant grab, so you can move things about. With your stars, just remember there's a right side and a wrong side. I count the right side as the one that's just got the faint shadowing from where it was cut. You can see that's just plain. I actually prefer the one with the darker effect. So just gel medium on the back of the stars. And then we're going to go with our twine. And I will put quite a big blob on the back because the gel medium does dry clear. think I'll just move my sea glass a little bit further that way so my twine can sit in between there. And I don't mind the fact that things overlap. This is my heaviest shell, and I'm going to put quite a lot of gel medium round the edges. Because it's no point in filling this with gel medium because it won't glue. You just want it round the edges. So you can see I've got quite a lot round the edges. Just wipe off my spatula. And then we're going to press that on there. Now hopefully we've got enough gel medium for it to stick. I just need a little bit more underneath there. And a little bit more under there. I'm not going to glue the other bits of my string down because I want the sense of movement in it. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that. So that I will wait until it's all had chance to set and make sure that everything is glued on properly. If you haven't got Deco Heavy Gel Medium, you can use a glue gun. But just be aware that if you're using a glue gun, eventually the glue may get brittle and things may come off. Your gel medium is a more permanent adhesive than a glue gun. I'm just going to see if I've got some sand in the bottom of this little box. Yes, I do. Because where I've got little bits of gel medium showing, what I'll do, I'll put my star onto something to catch it, and I'll just sprinkle sand just over where the gel medium shows, because this will cover any little bits that are showing up and it'll just look like sand on the beach. I won't tip it upside down to get rid of the excess sand because everything may fall off. I'll leave it for a few hours, a couple of hours, to see if everything's set, and then I'll just tip off the excess sand and just onto a container and then back into my box. So we've got our star, it's decorated. I've left it till the gel medium is just about set. It could do with a little while longer, but I'll just show you this while I've got it on my desk. I don't like this. It's sort of quite bold and brassy. I'm going to keep this and I'll use it for something else because I don't believe in wasting things, but it would be okay on a Christmas card or something like that. But I don't like it with the theme of the Seaside Stars, so I've just cut it off, and you'll see it leaves a little hole at the top here where it was attached, and I just use a pen or a pencil just to make a little hole. The last one was a bit easier to do. So I'll get that gold out. Get it out. Let's see if I find something else. Craft knife might do. Be very, very careful if you're doing this. And I'm just going to make a little hole. where the other string went in. That's it, craft knight's better. You could use this something like a screwdriver and then you wouldn't be as likely to hurt yourself. That's it. Pull the gold out and make a bit bigger hole with my pen. And then I've got this just garden string that I quite like, and I'm going to get my heavy gel medium again and dip the ends of that of my string into my heavy gel medium, so it's got a nice coating on it. You'd be better off doing this with gloves on so you don't get the gel medium on your fingers. And then I'm just going to pop that into the hole I've created. It sometimes needs a little bit of encouragement just to go in. There we are. So the two ends of my string are now in there. I'll just form the paper around it and leave it to set, and then I'll have a string hanger which fits in the theme a lot better than the gold twine that was already on it. You can leave the hanger whatever length you want. If you just want short ones, you could do short. I wanted 3 different lengths, so I'm going to do 3 stars with different length hangers, and then I can graduate them down when I hang them on the wall. So there'll be one here, one there, and one higher up. All similar but slightly different.